Greetings, my name is Peter Alexander. In this video I'm going to demonstrate some of Character Creator 5's new features, focusing mostly on the HD pipeline. Character Creator now supports 2 subdivision levels, adding a vast amount of mesh definition. The extra geometry allows for more possibilities with how far the base mesh can be stretched. Whereas previously a design like this one was only barely achievable, now the geometry rests comfortably in this shape, allowing for things like a better facial expression profile. For this demo, I'm going to stretch the mesh over this AI-generated rat character. Once I clean up the mesh after wrapping, I'll give it some basic poly paint and sculpted detail. Then send it back to Character Creator 5 at subdivision level 2. From there, I'll clean up the mouth shape, add some expressions using face tools, add a tail and whiskers, then send it to Unreal to take advantage of that pipeline's features. Let's dive in. I'll start by loading up the CC5 HD base mesh, then I'll send it over to ZBrush using GoZ Plus. The HD base mesh loads with 1 subdivision level. You can add another subdivision level if you want, or you can add it later. GoZ Plus can send up to 7 subdivision levels, though usually 5 or 6 is enough. Even though you're generating extra subdivision levels in ZBrush, only 2 are supported on the CC5 side. The rest of that detail will be used to generate normal maps. I'm using a free service called Tencent Hunyuan 2.5 to generate this mesh using an AI reference. I'll export it as an FBX and then load it into ZBrush. Then I'll insert the subtool into the Z tool right under the CC base body. Next, I'll use a paid add-on called Z-Wrap to wrap the base mesh around the reference mesh. Before you do that, you'll want to create a morph target for the CC base body. This will allow you to more easily correct aspects of the mesh after wrapping. Z-Wrap functions much like Headshot. You line up the corresponding points on the 2 meshes and then initiate the wrapping process. Once the wrapping process is complete, areas of the mesh will have to be corrected, such as the eye sockets, the inner mouth, as well as the tear ducts and the eyelashes. If you mask everything except for those areas, you can dial out the deformed areas and manually align the corrected areas to the current character's shape. This can take a bit of practice to master, but you'll get it if you stick with it. It basically involves a lot of masking and smoothing and using the gizmo to transition the pieces of the mesh into the correct places. Having a morph target saved allows you to selectively fix areas of the mesh that have been badly deformed or are incompatible with the reference mesh, such as these hands and feet. Now that all the details are in place, I will add some basic poly paint data so that I can easily generate textures using the GoZ Plus process. This character is very exaggerated, but also basic in its colors, so I can just paint them manually. You can transfer the colors from your reference mesh, but in this case, it's about the same effort to just manually paint them. Polypaint works based on mesh density, so the more subdivisions, the more detailed you can polypaint. However, these colors will be baked onto textures, which do not depend on mesh resolution, but texture resolution. However, since these are basic colors, 2K resolution should be enough. The character is now ready to send over to CC5. Go to the GoZ Plus panel and adjust your settings as needed. The GoZ Plus panel now includes the new subdivision levels. For this project, I'm adjusting the settings to create data for Sub D level 2. If you select all the Sub D levels, it will create the normal map data for each level, adding to the character file size. Since you can do this as needed in Character Creator, I will keep those options unchecked. In addition, the GoZ Plus panel now supports up to 8K resolution and displacement maps, which can add a new dimension of detail to the character when combined with Sub D2. After you initiate the GoZ Plus transfer, it will go through a script which will create the diffuse and normal maps if those options are checked. When the script finishes, it will have sent that data to CC5 and place the maps in the proper material slots. and will have transferred the sub D data as well. I did not create polypaint data for the eyes or teeth or tongue, so I will fill out that data using the texture settings and by replacing the materials with those of prefab assets. Although this figure is more stretched than detailed, you can see the difference in stretching quality when you dial down the subdivision levels. If your reference mesh had a different pose, you can give your character a proper T-pose using the Set HIK T-Pose function. This will ensure compatibility with all eye clone type of humanoid animations. In addition to the correct eye blink function, Reolution has introduced a correct eyelash function, which saves a tremendous amount of time, as those who've created content for the marketplace know well. A common issue with wrapping meshes is that the mouth has deformation issues after the wrapping process. In order to correct the mouth, go to the Edit Facial menu and dial the Jaw Open slider. Then send the character to ZBrush using the Current Pose option so that the mouth will be open. In ZBrush, correct any issues without changing the rest of the character too much. Any issues with the mouth being open involving the neck should be addressed in the Facial Profile Editor or Face Tools, not with this edit. When you're finished, send the character back over to Character Creator 5 and close the mouth. Now I'm going to edit the facial profile. This can be done using Face Tools or using the Facial Profile Editor. For this pipeline, both involve ZBrush. Face Tools allows you to do it in one sculpting session and create wrinkle maps, whereas the Facial Profile Editor allows for a more complete editing process. The best of both worlds is to start with Face Tools and then finish it off with more refined editing using the Facial Profile Editor. Once the editing is done, initiate the transfer to CC5. This is another script and it will prompt you with options for the process. Make sure to check Sub D2 and the options if you're working at that level. I created the tail very quickly by exporting the main body mesh to Blender and basically using it as a source for duplication and extrusion. The mesh can be sent using the OBJ or FBX export or through the Blender Auto Setup add-on. I rigged the tail with basic bones, painted the skin weights, then imported the tail as an FBX using the prop import function. I attached the tail to the pelvis bone and then assign the tail some spring bones to give it dynamic motion when he walks. This rat is now ready for the Unreal Engine pipeline, and since it is compatible with Reolution's library of animations and iClone's expression tools, I can give the character a unique personality fitting to the design. Now to export this to Unreal Engine. I will start by going to the export options and choosing the Unreal UE5 skeleton, and then choose Mesh and Motion. The gear icon will load more options for export. Choose Sub D0 under the HD character options. and make sure Smooth Mesh is checked. Once imported into Unreal, you'll have access to the Unreal Engine control rig, giving even more facial control within that pipeline. The UE facial rig provides an industry-standard solution to facial animation and refined control. It's a new day for Character Creator, and I'm excited to see how CC5 will be leveraged by large and small projects alike, as the Reallusion suite of 3D tools embraces a new dimension of detail and integration. I'm Peter Alexander, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in this new creative arena.